The gym was louder than usual. Sweat hit canvas. Gloves cracked pads. Cameras flashed. Agents circled like vultures, but none of that mattered not to the man pacing inside the cage. Dax Renner, undefeated. Middleweight champion. 32 wins. Zero respect for anyone not in the Octagon. He was built like a missile and talked like a podcast host who couldn't be muted. And today, he had a new target. Because someone had just walked through the gym doors that didn't belong. Black boots. Black shirt. Head shaved. Hands tucked behind his back like he wasn't even in the building. Jason Statham. "Look who it is," Dax said loud enough for the room to stop moving. Some of the younger fighters paused mid-rap. A few pulled out phones. Dax climbed the cage wall like a gorilla with a mic. He called out to Jason, told him movie stars weren't welcome in real gyms. Said if he wanted to learn how to really fight, he could start by cleaning the mats. The room laughed. Jason didn't. He just walked slowly right up to the cage. He didn't look up, didn't react, just stood there. Silent like a judge. Dax didn't like that. He dropped to the mat, unhooked the cage door and waved Jason in. "Let's show him what Hollywood hands look like." The head coach stepped forward, tried to calm Dax down, said it wasn't worth it, told him to focus on the card next weekend. But Dax wasn't listening. He was too busy flexing for his crew, too busy taunting the man who hadn't said a word. Jason took a breath, then walked into the cage. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" Another muttered, "He's an actor, bro." But one of the older trainers, he didn't speak. He just watched, tense. Because he had seen this before. Dax bounced on his toes, smirked, told Jason there were no stunt doubles here. No cuts, no retakes, just fists and facts. Jason still didn't speak. He walked to the center of the mat and stood with his hands down. Dax circled. The crowd leaned in. Then, without warning, Dax launched a jab, fast, precise. But it didn't land. Jason stepped left. No block, no counter, just evasion. The jab missed air. So Dax snapped again, a hook, clean, brutal. Jason dipped under it like it was a breeze, no flinch, no blink, just calm. The room shifted. No more laughter, no more phones, just the sound of a fighter realizing something terrifying. He couldn't touch the man in front of him. Dax growled and stepped in hard with a clinch. Jason moved like water. He reversed the pressure, turned the angle and tapped Dax lightly on the shoulder. The champ stumbled back, confused. It wasn't power. It was position. Jason had placed him off balance with one step and zero effort. And that's when the older trainer by the door stepped forward. His eyes widened. He recognized the pattern, the movement, the man. "Holy hell," he whispered. "That's the British Ghost." But no one heard him, except one. A former military guy sitting near the back froze, because he'd heard the same name before, in a story told at 2 a.m. In a Thai training camp. A man who disappeared from fight circuits a decade ago after a classified incident during a private bout in Ukraine. A man known only by one name, Statham, not the actor, the original. Back in the cage, Dax was breathing heavier now. Eyes narrowed. He circled again, this time slower. No more jokes. Jason adjusted his shoulders, exhaled, and took one single step forward. Dax flinched. The room caught it. And Jason still hadn't raised his hands, curious what Jason did next. Well, before we continue, if you love to hear Legends tales, or if you're just a die-hard Jason Statham fan who respects hard-earned justice, then we would love to invite you to hit that subscribe button now, because this is where stories like his live. We don't do fluff. We do justice, grit, and the kind of moments that stay with you. Back to the story. Dax Renner had been in plenty of fights. He'd taken elbows, knees, bloodied men's faces in Vegas, Tokyo, and Rio. He'd stared down killers in cages and walked out grinning, but this was different. Because for the first time in his career, his opponent wasn't fighting back. Jason Statham stood in front of him with the poise of a man who didn't need to hit to win. His posture was surgical. His movement, designed to expose Dax, not beat him, like he wasn't facing a champion, just a symptom. Dax launched another flurry. A fast jab to low kick, then he stepped in with a flying knee, something that would have stunned any striker. Jason weaved under, placed his hand on Dax's lower back midair and guided the champion to the mat. Not slammed, not tripped, redirected. Dax rolled out fast, humiliated, scrambled to his feet. Someone in the gym stifled a gasp, because Jason still hadn't thrown a punch, just revealed the gaps. The older coach watching near the cage clenched his jaw. He remembered now. Back in 2008, there was a fighter in the underground Euro League. never took pictures, never cashed prize money, just walked into rings, dismantled men, and vanished. Some said he was MI6. Others whispered he was banned from 3 private leagues after an incident left 2 Russian pros in the ICU. No one knew the truth, but they called him one thing, the Chisel, because he didn't hit hard, he hit right. And Dax Renner had just stepped into the cage with that ghost. Dax shouted at Jason, called him a coward, said if he wanted to be a man he'd throw. Jason blinked once, then stepped forward. Hands still down, Dax panicked, threw a spinning elbow. Jason turned with it, absorbed the movement, and used Dax's momentum to press him against the cage. His palm landed lightly on Dax's throat, not enough to choke, just enough to show he could. Then he stepped back. Dax's arms dropped for a split second, a moment of hesitation, and that's when the crowd truly understood what they were watching, a man being undressed without being touched. At the edge of the cage, a younger fighter whispered, "He's not an actor." Another said, "Then who the hell is he?" Jason paced once around Dax, measuring him, and that's when Dax snapped. He rushed. Everything in him screamed fury. But Jason stepped in close, too close. Chest to chest. No room for punches, only understanding, and he whispered something. No one heard it, but Dax's face drained of color, because what Jason said was a name no one should have known, Dax's first coach. A man who died overseas in a mysterious sparring accident that was never investigated. Dax had idolized him, and Jason had been there, had tried to stop it, had walked away when the league refused to pull the match, had carried that regret quietly, until today. Dax stumbled back, now breathing heavy, not from fatigue, from truth. His team yelled at him from outside the cage, but he couldn't hear them, because in that moment, he realized this wasn't a fight, it was a reckoning. Jason stepped forward one last time, not to strike, but to offer the one thing no fighter expects, grace. He let Dax walk away, didn't drop him, didn't break him, just left him standing, and that was worse, because the only thing harder than being beaten is being spared. The cage door closed behind Jason with a quiet clank. He didn't say goodbye, didn't look back. He just picked up his coat from the bench, draped it over his arm, and walked out like nothing had happened. But inside the gym, everything had changed. Dax Renner stayed on the mat long after Jason was gone, not injured, not bruised, just still. Because what Jason did couldn't be shaken off with ice or ego. It was a dismantling of identity. Dax had mocked him, tried to dominate him, tried to reduce him to a joke, but Jason never punched, and somehow that made it worse. The gym emptied slowly. No one spoke above a whisper. Trainers whispered to assistants. Fighters looked down instead of flexing for the cameras. But one person stayed behind, the head coach, the same man who'd spotted Jason in a private match in Marrakesh 15 years ago when Jason had no name, no brand, just scars and unspoken clearance. He walked into the office, opened the file cabinet, and pulled out an old photo, yellowed edges, low-res, timestamp faded. The image showed a young Jason, shirtless, gloves off, standing over 3 unconscious fighters with military patches. The word "ghost" was scribbled in pencil on the back. It was never supposed to be kept, but he did anyway, because legends don't die, they just get quiet. Outside, Dax sat in the alley behind the gym, still sweating, still replaying every second. He pulled his phone from his pocket and opened his notes app. At the top was a list: next opponent weaknesses, press call script, weight cut plan. He deleted all of it and typed just one word: Chisel. The next day, Dax didn't post a video. He didn't mock Jason online. Didn't spin the story. Instead, he disappeared from public view for a week, and when he came back, he showed up to a low-tier gym outside Manchester, alone. No entourage, no gloves. He asked the manager if he knew someone named Chisel. The man didn't answer. He just pointed to a dusty back room where a punching bag hung crooked, stitched together by hand. Dax stepped inside. Back in London, Jason walked a quiet street. He passed a bookstore, a coffee shop, a row of posters advertising the next UFC pay-per-view. One poster had Dax's face. Jason stopped, stared at it for a long moment, then smiled, barely, because he didn't need to be remembered. He needed to make sure the lesson lasted longer than the echo. 3 weeks later, an underground video surfaced online, grainy footage, no sound, no timestamp. Just a private sparring session in a dimly lit gym. Dax Renner, training with someone out of frame, Barefoot, humble, no press, no lights, just sweat and silence. At the end of the clip, Dax bows to the man across from him. The man steps into frame for only 1 second. It's Jason. No gloves. No brand, just presence. The video ends. No outrow. No tag, only one word typed across the screen by the uploader. Respect is built in silence.